Hello, it's the evening of July 24th, 2023, and it's been a couple weeks since I did a garden walkthrough, and we've had a little bit of rain since then, so I wanted to do another walkthrough and show you how things are looking this week. It's kind of peak daylily season right now, so you could eat these buds as they come out before the flowers open. Like this one would be a little bit too big, but you know, something kind of like that would be about perfect, or maybe a little bit smaller. This would probably be kind of too small, be a bit of a waste, but you could eat it. I mean, you could eat the flowers and most of the plant at almost any stage, but as a vegetable, the buds, you want them kind of medium sized. We haven't eaten any of those this year, but we have in past years. And this peach tree here, this is my seedling rootstock peach, setting, well, it's set quite a bit of fruit, and I've been thinning some off, and the fruits now are about between golf ball and tennis ball size. There's quite a few. I need to get an orchard ladder so that I can get up there and thin some of the canopy out, but this way it doesn't break the branches off by bearing too many peaches. The gumi bush here, I just took the net off of it yesterday and harvested the last of the fruit. All the fruit was getting kind of dried up and bug eaten like this. This is the last one I see on there. But it was a good season for those. I'm going to try growing some from seed next year because I've been encouraged by seeing seedlings that other people have grown that have very nice fruit. And I will be giving this some extra mulch and fertility because I want to encourage it to grow as much as I can, so I can take cuttings to graft and also to maybe give to other people to graft. So like this nice straight wood right here would be perfect for grafting next year. So try to encourage more of that kind of straight, vigorous growth. The cup plants are kind of just getting ready to flower. You'll see the flowers are just about to emerge on some of them. So I guess by late July, the cup plants have grown about as tall as they intend to grow. And because it was a dry season, some of them, you know, they're like 4 to 5 feet tall, I would say, depending. There's one straight ahead there by the power pole. That one's probably 6 or 7 feet tall. And I have others that are probably that tall or taller. But it wasn't, you know, moisture was lacking throughout a lot of the summer, so that will limit the growth of things. And cup plants also have a lot of these aphids on them, these little red aphids. I don't know if ants are farming these or what, but they seem to all get these, and they don't seem to really bother the plants too much, but they're a fact of life, I guess. And there's a little bit of water in the leaf margin. It hasn't rained for about a day or day and a half, so but the dew can also fill those up. So this hedgerow, this nice native rose has finished blooming in the last week or so. That was kind of in full bloom in my last video. Hazelnuts, some of these small plants are forming a few nuts. You know, usually at this size of a bush, this is only less than waist high. You wouldn't see a whole lot of nuts forming, so that's fine. Nanking cherry, those are just finished in the last couple of weeks. Service berries got some tender red growth there. The deer are nipping that from time to time. Monarda is in full flower here. Oh, not full flower. Some of them are full and some of them are just starting. You'll see there's honeybees and bumblebees and bees of every stripe working on these things. And even though it was pretty dry this year, Monarda does have powdery mildew problems even this season. So you'll see on the leaves there's a lot of kind of spotting from powdery mildew. And these hazels in this replanted replanted hedgerow are all Forest Ag Mark Shepherd's hazelnuts, and they are precocious, so they are bearing nuts at a younger age than a lot of wild seedlings would. Red Rosier dogwood has been clipped a few times by deer. This peach tree, this is a cultivar peach. It's got one really diseased looking peach in there somewhere, but this is a donut, or maybe a donut style peach, but I don't think we're gonna get to try those fruit this year. They look really nasty. Maybe next year. Aromatnia quince has some fruits that are sizing up. Been giving more mulch to things. That is branches of catalpa that have fallen every time the wind blows. Several branches seem to snap off of that, you know, really vigorous growth of the catalpa tree. You know, they'll grow 6 or more feet in 1 year, so good source of mulch. Butterfly milkweed there's a little solitary guy, and that one is just flowering, but other ones have sort of finished. A lot of the wild ones are already done flowering, so having plants in different places is cool because it extends your flowering time. You know, having in part shade or different soils or things like that, it influences the flowering time, and also just different seedling genetics. Rose of Sharon, those are kind of starting to flower nicely now. Got some of those in the hedgerow. They flower at a pretty young age. I just noticed the other day, pokeweed. This, you know, is considered a very weedy plant to a lot of people, but it is a native plant. It's an edible plant, has good greens in the springtime, and actually the flowers smell really good. I was surprised at how nice the flowers smell. It's not a very strong fragrance, but you can just catch a whiff of it every now and again, and it's surprisingly good. Here's some yellow sweet clover. That is just a weedy thing that came in. I don't mind it being here. Nitrogen fixer. Graft here of Asian pear onto Callery pear, and it's grown out of its tree tube. Now it's taller than I am, so it's about 6.5 feet tall there. So that's good. Caged to protect it from the deer, because as you may see later, anything that doesn't get caged can get nipped off. Deer seem to have a real taste preference for grafted material. Here's a mulberry over here. This is regrowth sprouting from a failed graft that I did right here. But look at how the deer have been eating that off. And then this mulberry over here, I'm amazed the deer have not clipped this off. This is Illinois everbearing onto a seedling mulberry, and it's got a good foot of growth coming out of the tree tube. You know, knock on wood, I expect that to be gone any day now, but maybe I should put a proper cage around this. But anyway, it's growing well, so even if they clip it off at the top of the tree tube, I've got something to go from next year. These Luther Burbank purple raspberries are kind of fruiting, but the fruit is small and not very good, so real mushy. Not really too impressed with these. Maybe if they were given better cultivation, they would prosper more. Yeah, a lot of pokeweed everywhere, a lot of cup plant everywhere. These are things that I basically just let go whenever they show up, and they do show up quite often. But this is interesting. Green-headed coneflower, aka Sochan. It's getting browsed a bit by deer. Here's a big patch of it right here. They're really not wading into the center of this patch and eating all the tops off. But I had a plant potted up over in my nursery, and they just devoured every leaf off of that. So their preferences are interesting. There's a hawthorn, baby hawthorn tree there. Wildflower mixture here. This serviceberry is finished. It's fruiting. Pretty late golden Alexander here. Those normally have been done for a month or so, but late straggler. Looks like it's about to make some seeds. Pawpaw not growing too much. Oh, this is something to note. The wild senna is just about to start flowering. So these yellow flowers here, that's wild senna. That's a native nitrogen fixer that likes wetter soils. This pawpaw graft over here I don't think is doing anything. Yeah, I have a few pawpaw grafts that are showing a little bit of life, but none of them are growing well. So I don't know, maybe I didn't do a good job of the pawpaw grafting, but live and learn and keep trying. This wildflower area is looking pretty good. The coneflowers, got echinacea, the common echinacea here, and then you've got, I think this is called gray-headed coneflower, and some of those are 5 feet tall or more. They're a nice kind of backdrop, real wispy looking. Here we've got rosinweed that's just about to open up its flowers. I think it is flowering other places in the garden. And I pan over here. This wildflower garden doesn't look too hot right now. The tall coreopsis is done. I've got one stem of compass plant over there in yellow, and this pale purple, pale Indian plantain, I think is what they call this. You can see it's grown about 4 feet tall this year. Last year it grew about a foot taller, but because of the drought, I think this is sort of a semi-riparian species, or likes wetter soils anyway. But it's got interesting leaves and interesting flowers that are visited by a lot of different things when they come out. Over here I've got a graft of persimmon that doesn't look too hot. It's got some kind of leaf plague or something. There's some more wild senna in front of that. transplanted hazelnut over here. This is a nice type of goldenrod. I can't remember if this is stiff goldenrod. It's got these sort of fuzzy, beautiful leaves. That's going to flower pretty soon. Got a running type serviceberry, an ornamental quince, chestnut behind that. Still got a few straggling lance leaf coreopsis here. Those start really in probably early June and kind of continue for quite a while. Now here are the seed pods of lance leaf coreopsis. So, you know, you could come here and get tens of thousands of seeds if you wanted to. They spread around pretty prolifically. Here's some more of this gray-headed coneflower here. You can see it's got cup plant as a backdrop there, and some Monarda and some regular echinacea in the mix. And there's also Anise hyssop in purple over here, which I forgot to mention. It's one of my favorites here. Very delicious, tasty plant. Has a black licorice flavor. This seedling peach has a few, I think 2 peaches on it, or 3. There's 1, 2, and then there's a third one. So I should probably bag those to try to preserve those, because I'm excited about those. That's the first crop. A few fruits on this clove currant, and if you get, some of these can get to be a pretty good size. Now my mother plant of clove currant, something's been eating all the berries off that, so I think I had 1. This is a good fruit. It's edible right off the bush. That one maybe could use another week to ripen, but still tastes pretty good. Doesn't have the strong medicinal flavor of a European blackcurrant. Just more Anise hyssop, another seedling peach over there. Not much else to show in this little area. These Siberian pea shrub pods have shattered. They're twisted up now. So they've ejected their seeds around, although I've never seen one ever reseed in 13 years of growing this plant. So this one here is not open yet, but I'm kind of, if I squeeze it, it should open. And the little seeds are like little tiny lentil type things. They're quite small. And a friend of mine, Melissa Hoffman, made miso out of these in Vermont. But you'd have to have a lot of these things to make a pot of miso. There's a bug there. I don't know what that is. Anyway, a Siberian pea shrub has not grown very well for me. Doesn't do well in this climate, or this site anyway. Pears are coloring up. I need to get an orchard ladder and thin out the pears at the top. But this is a European pear, and the tree is looking pretty good this year. That honey locust that I girdled has still got a few sort of half-grown leaves on it. And this little leaf linden in front of it, the top totally died just before it was about to flower. I don't remember if in the last video if it was starting to do that or not, but anyway, the whole top is basically dead, and it's regrowing from the base, so that'll be interesting to watch. Over here, here's some more of that same goldenrod that I just pointed out. I should remember what that's called, but it's a great one. Another graft. This is another Asian pear onto calorie pear, and that's taller than I am now too, so that's good. You'll see some places like here and there. I just got a bagging lawnmower for the first time, push mower, and I don't know what I was thinking not using one of those for years, because I hate mowing. I really hate mowing, but the prospect of having mulch at hand every 2 minutes, like a big pile of fertility and mulch to spread somewhere, is really attractive. So I got really excited, mowed for like 2.5 hours the other night, and put mulch in around a lot of plants. This area looks pretty good right now. This is, we've got daylilies, monarda, rosinweed is about to open. This is Heliopsis, false sunflower there. Some kind of frilly daylily, common monarda. This is Monarda didyma. Not going very tall here just yet. This is its first year in this spot. We've got a seedling peach over there. We've got a rodent planted hazelnut, and we've got a gumi bush on the other side of that. This chestnut tall thing here with the bad branch angles, it has a second stem, and I grafted that with the winkle chestnut, and both of these bark inlay grafts took. This one here did not, but that's okay because that's redundant. So we'll see if those survive. The false indigo, you can see there's a huge seed set on these every year. These old apple trees, I'm really amazed. They had a big crop last year. They have a big crop this year, which usually apple trees take a year off if they've overborne. That's the right word. But this one here is kind of a Franken tree. It has 5 or 6 varieties grafted to it. The top of it is a Golden Delicious. And this year I finally got around to cutting out some of the top growth to give more light to these old grafts that were done probably 7 or 8 years ago. They don't look that hot because they were too shaded to ever properly heal over. So some of them have snapped off, like that one, the bottom piece snapped off, the top 2 are still there. So a couple of these grafts are bearing fruit for the first time, but you can see the quality of the fruit. It's not too hot. You know, I don't spray. I should be bagging at least some of these to try them. Now this branch here, I believe this was called Siesta. And this apple almost looks ripe. It's fully colored up. I might pick that in a day or 2 and try that. But you can see what a stupid crop of Golden Delicious we have. It's like ridiculously overbearing. I don't know why. The understory of things was looking pretty burned up, but now it's kind of half come back. We've had several good rains. There's some ostrich ferns, some yoga ginger, some pawpaw sprouts in there, catalpa that shouldn't be there, monarda lilies, some junk, stinging nettles under here. These are a few chestnuts that I saved from the chipmunk. I dug these up after the chipmunk had pulled them out of the ground and eaten the nut part. And so now they are repotted. Hopefully they'll grow. These are some things I have to plant still. I got these down in Indiana like a month ago. There's a couple of ginkgos, a male and a female cultivar, and a Kentucky coffee tree. Excited to try those all again. I've planted those all before and they all died. Chestnut seedlings, this is my little nursery area. I've been getting rid of some plants. I had a bunch of visitors this season, so I've given a lot of plants away. So I have some ragged sunchokes and some rose of Sharon, some willows, a few elderberries, catalpa, a few grapes, clove currant that I think I had promised to someone, a few of the brambles like the golden fruited raspberry. Oh, here's the cutleaf coneflower that the deer have been murdering. This is a graft of Freckling's favorite persimmon onto a sprout. Probably should pull some of these other things off, but some of my grafts on persimmons are doing really well and a lot of them have failed. This is all just regrowth here. The only one little graft that is kind of alive is very feeble. You can kind of see in there, it looks like crap. So the nursery area, things are kind of growing. I have not figured out how to get rid of the chipmunks yet. So there's not much in these beds. There's a few odd chestnuts that they missed. Then over here I've got some wart nuts and some chestnuts and some brambles, persimmons that have an aphid problem. These American chestnuts here, these leaves are getting yellow already, so I've got to hit those with some acidic fertilizer and or iron. They always kind of start looking chlorotic in the midsummer. These little chinkapin chestnuts, they're growing, but they're not growing that well. So hopefully they will take off a bit. The wild rose is finished flowering in this spot. And this coppiced hazelnut, American hazelnut, now it's some pieces of it are 4 or 5 feet tall. So I think the deer were browsing some, but this is an experiment. I kind of chopped everything to the ground to see how it would regrow. And I think it will regrow pretty well in one season. Here's a little fig that's never done anything. Never had a fruit from it in 12 years. These beds here also were just hammered by the chipmunks. So I need to get some fertilizer to these poor, sad-looking willows and elderberries. I don't know why they're so yellow-looking. I think I said that the last time too. Heavy ground cover of purslane. I think the groundhog or something is getting in here, some herbivore, and it's eating down the clover and violets, and it looks like it's hitting the purslane a little bit now too, which is interesting. That I should set the camera up and watch that, because that'd be kind of comical to see the big fat groundhog climb up into these beds. My rainwater tanks have been replenished somewhat. Oh, this big poke weed here is where I smelled that nice smell the other day. I see a wasp hitting those flowers. So yeah, if you catch it just at the right moment, you get a nice smell. Wart nuts are doing pretty good. The red currants and black currants are just kind of finishing up their season. There's a few clove currants on this plant over here too. These are just starting to get ripe now. So whatever animal seems to have missed these so far. My Chinese tune is growing pretty well. I've got a Japanese angelica that's growing okay and one that's not growing really at all. This is a cultivar grape that I planted. I think it has a few fruits on it somewhere this year. Oh yeah, here we go. I don't remember what variety this is. Maybe I wrote it down somewhere. We'll see. Japanese beetles love grape leaves. You can see that they make lace work out of them. Yeah, this will all be solid Monarda here any day now. It's just totally been taken over by Monarda. This is my favorite goldenrod, showy goldenrod, and so that's getting ready to put on its show. That is the biggest pollinator magnet of its time when it's in bloom. A pretty good crop on hazelnuts this year. They have a pretty good crop most years. I like hazelnuts for that reason. This is a graft of more of my grass clipping mulch here. This is a graft of gumi onto autumn olive, and I've pruned off a bit of the autumn olive, but yeah, that's encouraging there. Let's see, do I want to walk over here all the way? I'll show you the pawpaws and stuff. I hate making these videos so long. I don't think anybody wants to watch that much walking around. Ornamental quince here with fruits on it. Not getting very big, but there's a bunch of fruits. Okay, I'm picking back up with my video because my phone ran out of memory and shut off by itself. Okay, I will show. Oh no, I won't show. There's a couple blueberry plants over here that are bearing, but I don't want to bother walking over there. I'll show some other stuff instead. We'll go through this jungle area. Got a graft of gumi onto autumn olive that's growing okay there. The catalpa coppice is growing pretty well. There's a huge sea of Monarda back there. Maybe you can see if I zoom in. That's all almost solid Monarda back there, and there's an early type of goldenrod back there too. We've got a more grass clipping mulch here because there's a pawpaw graft that's grown at least 6 or 7 inches there, which is super exciting. I'm really encouraged by that. My monster hazelnut bush is doing pretty well this year. Good apple graft there. The deer didn't eat the top of that one off, but they did eat the tops off of, there's 2 apples here. I think these are Candy Crisp there and there, so they got into the cages and ate the tops off. This graft of Asian pear is doing quite well. Still a few odd wild black raspberries to nibble on here and there. This graft of Uromania quince doing well there, although they've been eating this side branch that was also grafted. Put some wood chips down, trying to bring up the fertility over here a bit since there's so many things happening. This pear tree, I cut the top off to make it less prone to blowing around in the wind because it was getting very top heavy. So as we pan, you might see there's purple flowers, there's wild sweet peas and Monarda kind of in the mix here. You can see there's some paths that I've mowed with my new mulching mower, which I was so excited about. Didn't mow everywhere, but I will be doing more mowing. This false indigo is showing some drought stress. I noticed that the staghorn sumac is finished blooming, but the winged sumac is just about to start blooming. So I don't know if we'll see any open flowers today on those, but they are just about to pop off. You might see here, I did some limbing up and trimming of black locust overstory. You can't see, and also some sumac, kind of mid-story. And now that's sort of shriveling up, so it's not as apparent, but to give more light to the chestnuts, but also to give some mulch down after some rains that we had. Try to keep some of that moisture in the ground because it's going to be hot the next week, like 90s type temperatures. So that will bake a lot of the moisture out of the soil. So yeah, wanted to preserve it if I can. So yeah, these winged sumacs are all just about to flower. Oh, damn, deer came and pulled the graft. I should have taken a picture of that yesterday. They pulled the graft right out. Damn, that's interesting, pretty aggressive. This was not growing vigorously anyway, so I did not expect it to amount to anything, but that's pretty funny. Hopefully I don't do that to all my chestnut grafts. So this will be a nice little area over here, this wildflower meadow that was planted, I think 2013 or 14. See if I can get the glare off the camera. But yeah, the big leafed prairie dock there is still got some flowers happening and still a few more that haven't opened yet. There's some butterfly milkweed with the Monarda. Tall coreopsis is finishing off. The rosinweed is just about to open. And this compass plant is still kind of in full bloom. That's pretty. See some bumblebees working around. You know, nighttime you don't get as many as you get maybe in the morning time. There's a chestnut graft there that I think is still alive. My nice mulberry graft there of Illinois everbearing is doing pretty well. I have discovered a couple of ground bee nests this year, so hopefully I don't discover any while I'm on video. But just to show you, it's been dewberry and all kinds of caned fruit season here. So something, maybe raccoon, possum, whatever, deer, they're probably all eating that stuff and just loving it. A little chestnut there with some newly applied mulch, and I put some over by that mulberry too. These chestnuts, actually there's a lot of burrs you probably can't see in this lighting scenario, but there are quite a few burrs on this big tall chestnut tree, the timber chestnut. It's mowing down this path. I don't think I'd mowed this in a year or two, so that is kind of nice. This Seguin chestnut always has some leaf problems, whereas some of its siblings do not. So I'm just going to keep adding more organic matter, mulch, and hopefully that'll sort itself out. The trees are still, you know, alive and producing, but something is not quite right there with the genetics on that one. Chinkapin chestnuts, they are some little burrs forming. They're small, and there's some leaf problems on the chestnuts this year too. There's a new flush of growth. Probably this got nibbled by a deer. It's not this beautiful new growth. The older growth, you know, has some browning edges here and there. And you know, this one, I don't know if there's like potato leaf hoppers. There's a lot of things that probably bother chestnut species. These tall plants here are ironweed. Those are just about to flower. They'll have pretty purple flowers before too long. Other chinkapin chestnut here. Got some pecans, and taller things are pecans there. Pecan here. I missed my chance to graft some pecans this year, unfortunately. I sort of ran out of time and energy to graft. Got too late in the season. This is a really nice growth. I've got some dead stuff in here as a decoy to sort of give it some physical protection, but this is a great graft of Dean persimmon. It's sending out 2 feet of growth so far. It's beautiful. So here we have just about to bloom. This is winged sumac, and growing over it, this is our native wisteria, Virgin's bower, and that looks like it's about to bloom right now too. So we'll keep moving on here. Go see some of these pawpaws over here. I do have groundnut growing all along. It's kind of in the mix in a lot of places around the garden. It wanders, it moves around on its own quite a bit. So you can plant it somewhere and it might show up 20 feet away next season. Little pawpaw here, yeah, just trying to give some mulch to these things that need it the worst. The younger plants and the you know, plants that were recently grafted, plants that like more moisture than some others. This pawpaw graft has got like one little sprout. I don't think it's probably gonna do much before it hardens off, you know, for the season. We've still got a few months, but I don't know, we'll see. Depends on how hot and dry it is probably. This pawpaw, there's like a little sprout here on that one. That's cool. This is a witch hazel. I kind of forgot that I had planted that through the thicket of sumacs there are some Japanese heart nuts. I think there's heart nuts and maybe bort nuts. Over there you can sort of see right there. They all kind of blend in with the sumac foliage, which is okay. Maybe that keeps them from the deer a bit. Let's see, this grafted apple that the deer won't leave alone. Grafted pear that's almost healed over, just about. Cut the top off of it, but it's still got a pretty strong leader growth there. Chestnut graft here is growing pretty well. It's gonna flower, but it's cleft graft, or I'm sorry, whip and tongue graft, healing up pretty well. There was like a paper wasp nest in this 9-bark bush. I just noticed something came and tore apart. I don't know if that was a new nest that they were building or what, but it was pretty intense. It's pretty destruction. There, you can sort of see it. I don't want to get too close in case they're still there working on it somewhere, but I think skunks and some other things like skunks will get in there and eat those nests and eat the larvae and stuff out of them. I wanted to show here, this chestnut died from ambrosia beetles this spring, and the deer have just been attacking it. So I put all this crap around it to try to camouflage it a bit and give it a little bit of protection from the deer from nibbling on it, because that is a seedling from a good cultivar chestnut that James Nave sent me, and James Nave is like the national expert on chestnuts on Facebook. Dewberry season is kind of in full steam. I don't want to get into the thick of it, but there's a bunch of dewberries along the ground here and some pretty good sized fruit on some of them. Some of them are fairly small, but you get some that are as large as a blackberry. And speaking of blackberries, in the last couple of days, the blackberries are just starting to be ripe. So these are wild blackberries, and then dewberries will hybridize with blackberries. So yeah, the getting is pretty good right now, and I'm just kind of surprised at how decent these berries look, some of them, because of how dry it has been. But sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. A little bit of haze in the air today because of the Canadian wildfires. I think I checked today and there's over 1,000 wildfires burning still in Canada. It's kind of ominous. So yeah, done some tours here. We'll be doing some more maybe if we still continue to have some rain. The rain barrels are kind of refilled, which is great news. They were just about empty for a while. Oh, here's a rosin weed that's a bit ahead of the pack with its flowering time. So you can see, these are what the flowers of it look like. I'm gonna take a bite of blackberries here. Not real big flowers, but they're pretty. And the plant makes a lot of biomass, even in pretty poor soil. Wild plum, I'm doing okay. And I won't walk all the way back. Most of the chestnuts I planted don't look that hot, but I'm gonna be mulching them more. New mower. Plum has a lot of fruit on it. I want to show some persimmon grafts though, because some of those look pretty good. I'm gonna kind of wander across the field here. There are a couple of what are those things called? Sand cherries hiding in here. I don't have them flagged anymore, but they're around. There were like 5 or 6 back here at one time, and I think there's maybe 1 or 2 that are still alive. But I should flag those. This is a shrubby alder nitrogen fixer catalpa that I put back here. It's got about 5 stems. And so this persimmon area, you can sort of see, got a few decent sized, actually that's a wild black cherry, not a persimmon, but most of the stuff is persimmon or false indigo. The leaves look quite different than false indigo. Here's a little persimmon sprout. And so some of these plants have been here long enough, like 10 years or more even, and they're starting to send out root suckers, which makes it a little confusing because a lot of my original plantings, whatever they were marked with, is sort of is not that obvious anymore. So here's a graft of Gordon, and the leaves don't look super hot, but it's growing, so that's cool. None of these larger trees like this one or that one, or ones that are even bigger, have any fruit this year. So either they're male or it just wasn't the year for them. But there's a lot of there's probably 50 persimmon trees in this planting back here, and some of them are spaced, 5 or 6 feet apart, fairly close. This is Proc. Look at the growth on this thing. Amazing growth. So that's really, really nice. That's probably this one and one more are the nicest grafts that I've taken so far this year. I've got one up here called Sweet Seedy Surprise, which is from Dennis Strail, and that was just a seedling from Oikos, I think. And he said the fruit is super good, has a nice caramel flavor, but real small and seedy. So I don't know if it's much better than just a typical seedling tree, but I'm gonna try it. Let's see, because if it gets those rave reviews, you know, it's worth trying. At least we know it's a female. A lot of persimmons get this black leaf spot stuff happening. This is Ennis seedless. This is a graft on that crooked rootstock. Maybe you can see here. Probably had a tree tube mishap, but anyway, that's growing okay. That's pretty good growth. I'll show you this Sweet Seedy Surprise graft and then make my way back. So this is just a sprout off of a root sprout of this mother tree here, but look at the growth. Grafting is here, so that's probably got 2.5 feet or more. Some little bug there, I don't know what that is. Probably not something good. So yeah, that's really nice growth on that one. This tall one here has got to be 15 feet tall. That doesn't have any fruit, surprisingly. Maybe it's a male, I don't know, hard to tell. So anyway, not too much exciting happening in the hedgerow there. Oh, this is all coppice regrowth. It's now about 6 feet tall of false indigo. So that's, if you cut a mature plant down totally to the ground, you get some nice vigorous regrowth. More grass clipping mulch, more little sprouting persimmons out here. I'll show a couple of these Japanese walnuts. I think that's what they are. Check my map again. There's one there. I actually did plant some butternuts. I think that's what this thing here is, like an actual butternut. Here's another witch hazel. So I guess I have 3 witch hazels that are still alive at this property. I thought I had 0 still alive, but sometimes things go into hiding for a period and then come back and surprise you. So I think that might be a type of Japanese walnut there. And we got to kind of go through the thicket here to get over to this one. Here's a pretty good one hiding in amongst all this sumac and autumn olive. So maybe, you know, I'm sure deer come and bed down in these areas because this is a pretty attractive shelter for them. Let's see if I can get through here without whipping the camera. And I did some mulching yesterday, kind of thinning out these stems of just weedy sumacs. Sorry for the brain freeze there. So I just snap off, you know, a branch, don't need these things here, and throw them down as mulch. And that's kind of what happened here to give more light and more nutrients, and mulch these hazelnuts, which are bearing quite heavily. I mean, look at the set of nuts on these things. And these are pretty plagued by Japanese beetles too. You see a lot of lace work. I killed some of those yesterday, but real heavy bearing on this bush here. This one is more average, but still not bad. And there's some more of that Japanese beetle work there. So yeah, that's exciting. Catalpa here, some black locust in the overstory, some more Japanese walnut, or yeah, they're either heart nuts or something. I have to see if I can ever figure that out. Maybe once they start bearing, I'll have an idea, but that'll have to be probably years from now. Things don't happen that quickly with nut trees usually. So yeah, that's about it. Just probably more mowing in the forecast. I might start mowing, you know, strips. So I've always got some tall stuff and I've always got some short stuff so that people can walk through easily. But that way, you know, I'm not having to mow so much at one time. And just ecologically, it's better to have a mix of heights. You know, milkweed, you can mow it. It's good to mow it every so often, get that tender young growth, versus having it all be ragged like it is now. Stuff that has not been mowed is all burned up looking already here at this site. There's some nice monarda down there, some mullein, lance leaf coreopsis. One little flower on a rugosa rose. This is a new plant, and there's a damn Japanese beetle there. Bastard. They like roses a lot. Okay, so that's about it. Thanks for watching. That's how things are looking in late July. I'll do another video in a week or two. And come visit if you want to. If you're in the area, if you'd like to see things in person, dig some plants up, take them home, or some of the few things I have potted up, you're be welcome to. All right, thanks. Bye.